Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles. I am Ross Bolin, joined today as always by my buddy Mr. Barrett Dudley to bring you the best TV shows and movies weekly in an easily digestible podcast packed with laughs. Barrett, howdy. How's the ranch life treating you?
Oh, you know this day just keeps on punching, Ross. How about that?
Hell. It does. Just this year keeps on punching, doesn't it?
The year keeps on punching. The day keeps on punching. But the thing is, when you look up at night, that big sky.
That big Montana sky just keeps you going.
Big Montana sky, it just keeps you going. And I'll tell you what else doesn't hurt: when you can treat yourself to a cookie the size of a pie plate.
I'll tell you what.
That is just really the...
Hell.
Well, it's the gift that keeps on giving, Ross. That's what I always say.
The cookie the size of a pie plate? That's a cookie that'll make you sick. That's too much cookie, some say.
It's only too much cookie if you don't understand the physics of it.
True enough.
You know, so what the fuck else are you going to do?
Today we're opening up with tidbits and such. Then we're talking episode 3 of HBO's latest show, Lovecraft Country. And then we will be on to Yellowstone, season 1, episodes 4 and 5.
Shouts to Ryan Bingham.
So let's jump right into it, shall we, Barrett?
Yeah.
With tidbits and such.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's quite a large bit here, but obviously...
A large bit?
It's a large bit. I don't want to... The things that I say and put into tidbits and such, it's really just the name of this segment. I don't mean to belittle anything that ends up in this particular segment
of course
as
not.
A tid or a bit
or just some such
in size and nature. You know, this is just the category to which these kind of asides belong on this podcast. So
you want to call this one big bits and such?
So just laying that out there, but obviously. Rest in peace, rest in power to our man's Chadwick Boseman.
Yes.
Really, really sad passing and story there. Quite just crazy as well, since we were just talking about him days before he passed away. On our Patreon podcast where we did Movie Club on Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods, and he in a movie that was really kind of had its ups and downs, and we felt was pretty hit or miss. We were both talking about how we could have used more Chadwick.
Right. Every scene he was in was like he was far and away the most gifted actor on the screen.
That's correct.
Like it wasn't close.
And like I got that notification on my phone. It was pretty late at night on over the weekend, a Thursday or Friday night. And man, it was like it wasn't quite as like a gut punch that I felt with Kobe, but it was close, you know? It was just like this shocking, big star just suddenly gone.
Right. None of us knew that he had suffered through stage 2 and then developed into stage 4 cancer, that he had filmed all these incredible roles.
So the fact that he was, dealing with this illness and battling it for these last 4 years is just really crazy and heart-wrenching, and but also certainly adds to kind of his legacy and legend that he was able to do everything that he did and dedicate so much of his time to not only his craft but also to other people and to giving back to his communities and visiting kids in the hospital and meeting fans and like all the stuff that has really just poured out over the last several days. Just really shining a light on kind of how good and cool of a guy he was, not to mention just wildly talented as well. So it's he will certainly be missed, and I'm really it's a big loss, and the year just continues to drop bricks on our faces.
Just keeps on punching, Barrett.
Like Home Alone 2, yes.
Yeah, Chadwick Boseman, I was more inspired by his passing when the story began to come out. Obviously, very quickly we found out that he had been battling cancer and that he filmed all these iconic roles, including, I believe, Black Panther, while dealing with the disease. And listen, this guy, if you didn't notice, based on the outpouring of love and support on social media over the past few days, I knew Black Panther was a big deal. Okay, I knew Black Panther gave black people a superhero movie for them for the first time. I didn't realize just how big that impact was, though.
Yeah.
How many black people spoke out saying that he gave them their superhero. And then when you looked into how he carried himself off the screen and all the things you just spoke to in terms of what he did for the community and his fans and was seemingly just an all-around incredible guy that nobody has had a bad word to say about since his passing, that was inspiring to me. It's hard to live a life that brings that kind of inspiration. To have that kind of impact on people is very difficult. I also didn't realize his age. I thought he was significantly younger.
Yeah, I did not realize that he was in his 40s already. I thought for sure that he was like mid or late 30s guy.
Because he had kind of sprung into the spotlight so largely over this past handful of years.
Correct. Yeah.
It's sort of like a, what's the guy in Mad Men whose name is slipping my mind, who plays Don Draper?
John Hamm.
John Hamm is an example of a guy who we didn't see explode onto the Hollywood scene until he was in his 40s or whatever, playing Don Draper. Now, John Hamm looks more his age, whereas Chadwick, I just thought, I would have guessed somewhere between 25 and 35.
Yeah.
And I think he was, 45 years old when he passed?
43, I believe.
43 years old when he passed. Anyway, yes, just a tragic loss all around. And then considering the weight he carried within the black community,
totally
a gut punch, for sure.
Yeah, and I've seen quite a bit of debate about people on both sides of the fence here about what to do with Black Panther. And although it's not my decision to make, and my voice is not necessarily the one that people are begging to hear or care about,
What are you talking about? I've seen Black Twitter just left and right. What does Barrett think we should do with Black Panther?
Black Panther needs to continue. If you don't have to. And now the wrinkle is whether you just straight up recast somebody as T'Challa, or whether you essentially write him out, essentially have him pass in the storyline, and then have somebody ascend to be the new Black Panther, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to think. Isn't there a superhero or something like that where it's like almost Thor in a way, where it's like the hammer is kind of like passable,
Sure.
It's like
somebody
whoever
else can
whoever
become
is
this
carrying
person.
the hammer is kind of has the Thor powers or whatever.
Right. I
And
feel like there's a handful. The Mask.
The Mask, yeah, exactly. There's some other stuff like that where it's like you can ascend to the role. It's not a it's
I got another one.
Or even Ant-Man. It's like there was
Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus, yeah. But Ant-Man, there was like a previous Ant-Man before Paul Rudd's Ant-Man.
Right.
Right? So we have stuff like that. So not saying that somebody needs to slot in and be T'Challa instead, but you cannot just say, "Oh, well, Chadwick's dead, Black Panther's gone," because of exactly what you're saying, because of how important that franchise is.
What they established there has
to the
continue.
culture.
Yeah.
Like this is, it is a black superhero surrounded by black supporting cast and other sidekicks, and it's Wakanda is based in Africa, and it's like
and they've established that whole world already.
The whole thing is like so important to have as a pillar in that universe. Like somebody will become Black Panther, regardless of how they write that into the story, and I think that should happen.
Yeah. Hard to argue that they should no longer do Black Panther. It's just which path will they choose?
Right.
And especially with technology and CG, I mean, we've seen late characters appear in films through the magic of Hollywood and shit now. Will they go that route? Will they do? I don't know. But that's going to be a very difficult decision for them to make in terms of how to move forward with the franchise having lost their star.
I can only see them doing that as like a transition, and if they had already had some stuff filmed for whatever movie Black Panther is appearing in next,
right,
with Chadwick.
Right. Yeah, but it's a tough situation though. I mean, The loss of a human being obviously being the most important part, and then again, secondarily, the way he was the face of that franchise.
Yeah, and I mean, and Black Panther is really what made him kind of a movie star as well.
It made him a household name.
Right.
It did.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, he leaves behind quite a legacy, and just, one more piece of awful news from this year that, boy, just sure would be nice to get through this one.
Indeed.
Okay, on to some slightly happier news.
Okay.
Did you pay attention at all to the Ringer's teen movie bracket? We talk a lot about coming of age movies here. We're both big fans. I included one in my top 5 movies, which was a Patreon podcast that we did recently. Did you see who won? Did you pay attention to any of this at all?
No, I didn't. But I have it pulled up. You're the Ringer guy.
I am a Ringer guy. Yeah.
I just
appreciate when they do all of the legwork for big pieces of content like this.
Sure.
And then I can just
discuss.
And then I can just I'm just co-opting it and stealing it for a piece of content here. So let me give you the top 8.
Okay.
The Ringer obviously did all the seeding and ranking, and I'm just going to tell you what made the top 8. Okay?
But they were votes from their readership, correct?
Yes.
Voting from their readership is what
Ringer
drove.
seeded it and put together the 64 films, and then let readers vote.
Got you.
So our top 8 ended up being Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, Scream, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Superbad, Dazed and Confused, Mean Girls, and Clueless.
Okay. They really spanned as many generations as they could there with this one.
They did.
Also, I don't agree that some of those are teen movies. I don't feel like.
So the only one that I was like, is that a teen movie? Is the Harry Potter?
Yeah, and I get why they chose that one.
Yeah.
It's the most teen movie of the Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
But even like,
yes, it is.
Even like Scream, like a teen movie.
Yeah, I'm okay with the Scream inclusion because while it is a horror film, it is so quintessentially about like teenagers and about high school
silliness.
Yes,
with a bunch of 35-year-old actors playing.
It just happens to be also a horror film.
Sure, parts of it.
But yeah, that one is.
It's just an odd one.
Yeah, and that one is from the category called Teens Are Terrifying, which included, that included Kids, Carrie, Cruel Intentions, The Craft.
So all the classic teen horror movies.
So ones that kind of
high school
bordered on
movies.
that had a lot to do with high school, but some that were, that had the scarier elements to it as well. So have you looked already and seen which movie won this bracket?
I have seen the 4 that advanced to the final 4. It looks like it was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Scream, Superbad, and Mean Girls.
That's right.
It appears. Did Ferris Bueller win?
No, Ferris Bueller duked it out with Superbad, and Superbad won.
Okay.
Superbad along the way beat American Pie, it beat Dazed and Confused, and then it beat Mean Girls, and then it beat Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Did they have trash cans they were banging on in the dugout? Because that is similar to the Astros 2017 World Series run.
So my first question is, how do you feel about Superbad taking the big prize here?
Unexpected?
Yeah.
But I love it. Just because that's one of my favorite comedies of all time, and it's like I've said many, many times, it's one of the hardest I've ever laughed in theaters.
I don't think I realized just how much of a following and diehard like fan base this movie still had.
Yeah.
Because the movies that I just listed off, American Pie, Dazed and Confused, Mean Girls, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
those are all classics.
Could arguably be the final 4 here.
Yeah.
Like those are all-time coming-of-age teen movies.
Yes.
And Superbad pretty much wiped the floor with all of them. I think its closest battle was with Dazed and Confused.
Which is weird because I think of the Ringer's readership as more like our age and older.
Yeah.
Which if you're older than us, we're both 33. Are you 34 yet? You
No.
turned 34 in October.
Mm-hmm.
November, whatever. Sometime soon in the coming months. I just feel like that one was like we barely made the boat. So it's surprising to me that the Ringer's readership would vote so heavily toward that over these movies that are more in their age bracket.
Yeah, I was surprised as well. But I think what I'm gathering here is that because a lot of this is done through social media and Twitter and Instagram.
Okay,
so
there you go.
It's kind of pitched to the Ringer's younger following. And I think that this movie, like you just said, for people a little bit younger than us, I think Superbad kind of carries more weight for them.
Apparently so.
All very interesting because I actually recently watched Superbad within the last 18 months.
Okay.
And I didn't think it held up very well.
Oh man, I couldn't disagree more.
Really?
Yeah. That one's like a classic comedy for me. Like if I was 14 years old when that had come out, that would be my fucking Happy Gilmore in that line with Tommy Boy and the other classics.
There are moments in this movie that are
Billy Madison
that are still absolutely crush.
Yeah.
Like them being at the party with the guys that are coked out and Michael Cera having to sing the song.
These eyes are crying.
That's an awesome all-time scene. But there's stuff that goes on in the first 30 minutes that I just don't think you'd put in a movie anymore. And I hate to be PC principal here.
Oh,
but
so what happened?
There's so much dick and sex talk and just that kind of objectifies and belittles girls.
Really?
Yeah. Go back and watch it.
I just remember him drawing lots of dicks.
He does do that, but there's a lot of talk about I mean, you just have to watch it. It's mostly in the first 30 minutes of the film.
Okay.
And it's just very you get why people younger than us might still gravitate towards it because that's typically who kind of talks and vibes like that.
It's a raunchy one for sure.
Right. And then you kind of get to where we are and you're like, Larry David, GIF.
I'm looking for other PC takes here. And I'm seeing a column from 2017 that says, Superbad period scene, while it's still problematic 10 years later. Hella problematic 10 years later. Can we just stop making fun of women and their periods, it says. You have to keep in mind, I think Seth Rogen wrote this film when he was 12 or some shit.
I mean, yeah. No, it captures a very teenage id. You know what I mean? This is the all the stuff that I'm talking about is, I'm not saying that it's all stuff that we thought or said at one time as well.
But don't they make fun of boners and stuff too? I just feel like this movie never is one way or the other in terms of favoring men or women. It just makes fun of how high school is ridiculous and nobody knows anything about sex and it's just sort of this weird space in life.
It does. And the fact that you're not pulling up much about this is probably just me, it's just a me take really. I rewatched it and was kind of all the massive amount of crude, vulgar talk in the first half hour just didn't strike the same chord with me.
That's just because you've slowly transitioned at a slightly faster rate than me into boomerism.
Into becoming a boomer.
Yeah.
But the other films that I like better here, Dazed and Confused, Mean Girls, Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
See, I'd pick Superbad over all three of those.
They don't need they never have to go there, and therefore I think they hold up better.
It's a fair argument.
So, just I was just interested.
That's a shocking result for me on The Ringer, though.
Yeah. Leading me into the final tidbit here, an Elite 8 film was Clueless, which is available on Netflix, and I watched that over the weekend.
I don't think I've seen that in 20 years, man.
And it's interesting to go back and watch this film as well. It feels very relevant. I think that the large pieces of the film still very, very much feel tied to today's youth.
Right.
Which is a cool part of it. But it's also kind of slow.
Clueless?
Yeah, it's 90 minutes, but it's not an all-time favorite for me. I'll just say that. But it was still a fun movie to go back and kind of revisit.
That's one I definitely need to watch again at some point.
And Paul Rudd, my goodness, that man has just aged like a fine wine.
I always forget he's even in there.
This was 25 years ago, and I think he's better. He looks better now.
I'm looking at him, and he does look better now.
Yeah.
And that's the Hollywood thing.
Yes.
I think Clueless was when Paul was, void of filler, void of any work or fine creams to rub on his face.
I think he's actually more filled out because he's a younger guy, but the creams definitely. He probably has
I don't know, man.
He probably has some of that diamond cream now.
He didn't have the cheeks he has now.
Yeah, because his face was fatter.
Then?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. He had more of a boy face. What's it called? Boy face. Baby face. He had a baby face, Paul Rudd.
We still got a baby face.
Which is why he's aged so
well. That's why, yeah.
But also, just in general, when people first get to Hollywood and make it, they're the shittiest version of themselves you're ever going to see. And then no matter how much older they get, the fine creams and fillers, they keep them better looking than they ever were before they became rich and famous.
That is a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah.
So,
must be nice.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd, though.
Got to get some of that diamond cream.
I forget often. We've already talked about him twice in this episode, Ant-Man. I forget often that Paul Rudd has been around as long as he has.
Indeed.
Because he sort of had this resurgence, right? 10 years ago-ish? Mm-hmm. Whenever that was, when he was suddenly in every fucking comedy and sort of wheeled his way into those top 5 funny guys you want to see in a movie.
Right.
But you forget. Been around since Clueless and such. Any other such?
No more such. That was it for the such.
So big bits. Rest in power, Chadwick. And then some
such.
Tids and some such.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready to talk about Lovecraft Country Season 1, Episode 3?
Yes. Absolutely, I am.
Okay, well, this was the scariest episode yet of Lovecraft Country. It was a full-on haunted house and seance episode.
Yeah, so this was the episode where we went full horror. This was a horror episode.
The first 25 minutes is straight horror. All these different, she buys a haunted house.
Yes.
And moves into it and then experiences the haunting.
Uh-huh.
So 2 nights ago, what was that? Sunday night?
Mm-hmm.
I get in bed to watch this. And I turn it on. It's about 12:30. It's late. I've had a long day. I worked a lot on Sunday. I had family in town and did my fantasy draft over the weekend, so I didn't get to get some stuff done that I needed to get done. I was tired, not feeling my best mentally. The Sunday scaries had sort of set in a bit. And I turned this show on. And you never know what you're going to get with Lovecraft Country. We've only done 2 of these things, and there's a lot of racial elements, some scary stuff, but really nothing that I would consider horror to me so far. Nothing that made me scared. Mm-hmm. Okay? And usually the stuff that scares me is shit like an old woman with her jaw blown off, rising up from beside the bed.
And you don't know what her mouth's going to look like, but then they show it, and then it's horrifying.
And it's basically gone.
Yeah.
And then, and then so when you're in bed and you're watching that scene, it's unpleasant. Because when you try to go to sleep a half hour later, you think to yourself, I wonder if that old lady's next to my bed. And that's not what you want. So I turned it off, and I watched the rest of it in the light of day, thankfully. And it turns out I had watched most of the scary stuff at the wrong time. Yeah, why is there everybody scary has to chitter or make strange noises.
You got to chitter, bro.
And the rest of it turns out wasn't that scary. It was a little more of the explanation of how we got to where we were. And then there's the seance at the end, and the seances are always terrifying. It's just so intense and loud. Seances have to be so damn loud.
Yeah.
And somebody has to yell, "Get the fuck out of my house." We got a couple of those in this episode. But of course, Letty being the one who finally yells it and then does away with she actually does some teamwork with what is it, 9 spirits that were in this house. I'm sorry, 8 restless souls trapped in the house with their killer. The 9th spirit was the killer, which is the dude we see pop up when they're all holding hands, and then eventually they dispel him as well. But yeah, this one was a whole nother level, man, in terms of the horror. Of course, they kept the racial elements in. When she moves into this house, it is in an all-white neighborhood.
Yeah.
And Whitey is very upset that Letty has moved into this house. And they let her know by parking their cars out front of it and strapping bricks to the horns.
Yeah. Which you think about like what horror, like what type of elements horror plays with, whether it's sound or vision or atmosphere or whatever. And so that's one of the things that this show, I think, is consistently trying to do and elevate, is basically like bring you that feeling and convey that like being black in America feels like like you're in a horror film, essentially.
Yes, taking the
like
elements
the
of
sound,
horror movies,
right, and essentially like
and then showing you the real life elements of being black in America.
Yeah, and so it does that really well, and I thought that this episode was better than the last one, which after sitting with for a little bit, it was just really, really all over the place.
Episode 2
was.
Yeah, it wasn't my fave. I was just like, what?
And this one had much more stronger and straightforward narrative and kind of combined the two elements a little bit better, much like episode 1 I thought did. And I really loved just the kind of what I kept thinking about watching this episode was just how like it was horror, but it was like this very old school horror. Like it's haunted house horror.
Yes.
A lot like The Haunting of Hill House. How many times can I say haunting and house all in this big run-on sentence?
Many times.
You're in a spooky house with spooky stuff going on and doors creaking and opening and ghosts and rogue elevators moving without anybody moving them or hitting the buttons.
The elevator just wants to take heads.
And so, I liked that. I really liked the just kind of the old school thrills of some of this. And then obviously, like, this is kind of this is Letitia's episode. This is Journey Smollett, and she's fantastic throughout the whole thing. Just a really kind of powerhouse performance from her, I thought, in this episode.
It's definitely her episode.
And then of course it ends, and we do tie in the Braithwaite piece of the plot back in.
Yeah, we do.
And
which that's the part where like the whole episode's great, then Christina Braithwaite comes in at the end and freezes.
Yeah. So
Tick somehow.
Can we just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, let's
Can we just talk about the Braithwaites?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Because it's the part that I'm still like, why are you here?
Christina Braithwaite, good or bad?
I think she's going to end up being good, but we are like very unclear on that right now.
I mean, she's saved them from
racists.
From the racists the first go around
using her magical phantom vehicle.
Yeah. She is kind of giving the crew inside information when they are at the mansion, kind of cluing them in on things to expect and what might help in various ways to like make, she seems a little bit, she's clearly like on the wrong team, but seems to also be offering helpful information here.
Well, she slides a card into his pocket and says, "Call me when you're ready to learn more about your family history." And
right.
It's like,
and then she was obviously the one that had bequeathed all the money to Letitia so that she could buy this house. But why did she want Letitia to have the house? I wasn't clear on that.
What was the deal there? I didn't get that part. Like, why did she give her the cash to purchase this home?
Don't know.
And that's where, I mean, she didn't come in for the last few minutes.
There was a connection between one of the Braithwaites, Titus Braithwaite or whatever, or one of the guys that stole the pages out of the Book of Names, and they need those pages so that they can like figure out some more spells or something like that.
Yeah, to put things back in their place.
And that one of those guys had a tie to the evil scientist doctor who was doing experiments on our ghosts.
Uh-huh.
And so like was the idea to exorcise the souls of the victims, or was it to clear and get the bad ghost the fuck out of there, or was it more sinister than that? I'm not sure, because it ends up
like, was she trying to get her killed?
Yeah. And at the end it ends up like very like in a positive way. Like they are able to kind of exorcise our evil doctor demon, free the spirits of the murdered victims, And then Letitia is there running it as like a boarding house for, for young black people.
Yeah.
So that all
Black
worked
people
out.
that need a place to go.
Yeah, that all worked out very positively.
We just don't know if Christina's
was that the
intentions
intention?
were set her up for death, or maybe challenged to see if she could pull off something like this,
Right.
or was it a sort of a hookup like, hey, here's a situation, you can take care of it, and then it'll be a good thing for you. We're very unclear, but based on the ending of the episode and the way she treats Tick, I have to guess it's sort of like, I took it as a challenge then, that she hooked her up with the funds to buy this house, knowing the situation there, to see if she could handle it. It seems like they're being tested in some way. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be a part of something? I don't. It's just that's the thing. We have very little information about what the Braithwaite, where it's going to take us. What Christine, because her father's gone now, right?
He is turned into a statue, at the very least.
In the house that collapsed.
That you would think that
I'm pretty sure he's gone. And she says, like, my father's, claim to fame was invulnerability. That he thought he would never die.
Yeah.
And I guess she's exercising whatever the invulnerability thing is, because when he points the gun at her, man, he's frozen up.
Yeah.
He can't pull the trigger. He can't move his arm.
Here is a quote that I'm pulling from the Vulture recap. Here's the connection between Hiram Epstein, that's our racist doctor, scientist murderer.
Okay.
Horatio Winthrop, and the Braithwaites, partially explained extremely quickly by Christina Braithwaite. Okay, here's the quote. Horatio Winthrop was a founding member. Oh, and the house is called the Winthrop House.
And we never see a Winthrop? Have we met a Winthrop?
No, never met him.
Just
never
a name we need to know.
Just a name.
Okay.
Horatio Winthrop was a founding member of the Sons of Adam, banished after stealing pages from the Book of Names. He was trying to develop his own cipher for the language of Adam from the pages. Previously, Titus Braithwaite was the only person with a cipher. Hiram Epstein was a follower of Horatio's. Christina now wants those pages to decode the language and presumably obtain the power that comes with them.
So did she need the house cleared so she could get in there to find the pages or something
maybe,
weird like that?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
And just didn't want to do it her magical ass self?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to find out, obviously, in the coming weeks with Christina Braithwaite becoming a bigger piece of the show, I have to guess.
So right now I feel like there's three kind of parts of this show, right? There's the lived black experience that we see through our main characters and assorted, family members,
and
right?
their mapping of different racist towns and all that
Atticus
such.
and Letitia and Letitia's sister and George and Hippolyta and
Rest in peace, George.
What's Atticus's
Father's
Montrose.
name?
Montrose, yeah. So there's that story. It's living in Chicago. It's moving to the north side. It's the relationship between Tick and Letitia and her sister, right? There's that. And then there's the horror elements of it, right? Like the sundown towns and the racist sheriffs and this crazy Winthrop house.
The racist neighborhood.
And then there's this like wizard Sons of Adam magic element. And this piece over here, the Sons of Adam whole thing, this is the piece that I'm not sure is working.
It's the piece where every time it comes, like episode 2, the whole thing is about that, and you're like, what? And then the time it comes up in episode 3, you're like, what? Like the rest of this episode was dope.
It's just so tacked on to the back end.
Yeah.
They throw it 2 minutes at the end.
You get through everything, and then Tick storms into this place because he sees her car, and he's like, stop fucking with my family. And she's like, hold on while I drop some pretty confusing lines and then slide you a card, and I'm out, and the episode's over.
Yes, and I know that that's like the source of the horror, and which in the monsters and the horror is a piece of it that I'm enjoying, but just the whole like this whole Braithwaite wizards Sons of Adam thing, magic.
I'm hoping they find more ground there.
Yeah,
to stand on.
That's
currently
that's the questionable piece of it, because everything else I really am enjoying and like.
Yeah, it's just kind of the bummer part of the show right now, where we're like, we don't have much to care about here.
Yeah,
we got a weird episode, half explaining to us this wizard situation, why all these Braithwaites are where they are and what they're doing. We blow that place up by the end of that episode, and then in the next episode, it's got nothing to do with them really, but at the same time, possibly everything to do with them. And then Christina pops up at the end, and that's it. It is the element of the show where I'm like, yeah, same as you. I don't know if it's working yet, and we're going to have to wait to see. But if you used our rule of 3 to judge a show through 3 episodes, I'm glad this third one picked steam back up. Because after 2, I was starting to get a little concerned. 3 has sat well with me after the fact. Like, I enjoyed the episode. I love haunted house type of stuff. I liked that it was more classic horror. I just didn't really understand. I loved the way they mixed the racial elements in the racist neighborhood and all the white people being upset. I love the way they mixed all that together. It was just, again, in the end, when Christina Braithwaite comes in, again, I find myself being like, wait, what is the big story here? So, like, what's the arc for the big story in this season? And through 3, I know it has to do with the Braithwaites. I just don't know what it is. Like, how does this end? Does it end with Letty and Tick and, being wizards in this organization with them? I'm having a hard time following what that is about. Why it is about. Like, what is the test, if there was a test with Letty being given that house? Is it to see if she's capable of something else? Like, we're going to have to wait and see. But, I did want to read the setup from the beginning again. In the summer of 1955, a group of Negro men and women moved into a house on the north side of Chicago. 10 days later, 3 people went missing inside the house, never to be seen again. So that's what we get up front, right? And then again, 9 spirits, 8 of them victims, 1 the killer. And by the end of the episode, Letty has exorcised the demons and cleared the house so that it can be used as a boarding house. Tick, what else did he do in this episode? Other than get frozen with a gun at the end.
He was, he made his move on Letitia at the house party.
They had what became...
Which was a straight up...
sad sex.
Looked like a banger, the house party did.
It did. I mean, in the sex looked like something else, too. a real banger. But then it was sad sex. Like, she's just crying afterwards and shit. Like, there's a lot of emotion
tied up there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But he was on his way out. He was going to go back to Florida. Then he decides to stick around a little bit, for just because the bad neighborhood stuff going on.
Right. He's like, oh, shit, I can't leave. This is a problem.
Yes.
All these white people parked out front.
With the bricks on the horn.
The goddamn
very
horns.
Annoying. Yeah.
Just the most annoying horns back in the 1950s or 40s, whenever this is.
Yeah. So
1955.
And then he helps. He participates in the ritual, the spiritual ritual with.
He becomes a part of it
with the goat sacrifice and such.
The killer ends up inside of his body.
Oh, he does. He gets
a little possessed. I thought it was crazy how when she wins the seance, and clearly the last piece of that would be this killer's spirit exiting Tick's body, we don't see Tick again. We do get to see him doing where his face is going all crazy. But then when it's over and we see the other ghosts, spirits from this house dissipating, we still have that shot of Letty just like exhausted from the work she's just done and all the yelling. But we never get another shot of Tick, which was just weird. We see him again after the fact, but I just thought it was an interesting choice not to show him post-possession in that basement or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, why do these always have to take place in basements? It reminded me of so many horror movies where there's a basement situation gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Where every time somebody goes down to the basement...
basements are scary.
They are scary.
They're discreet. They have no windows.
They are scary.
So that's where you go to do to do bad stuff.
Been scared of basements ever since Home Alone as a child. When he goes down there and fucks with that damn furnace, man.
Yeah.
We don't have basements
we do not.
in Texas, man. They're even scarier
So
to
we're
us.
even more basement averse.
Because you fear what you don't understand.
What you don't know.
I believe that's a Batman line, too.
Well,
not that it hasn't been used 1,000 times. Anyway, solid episode till we get to the end, and then we're brought with the white confusion again. Just leave the white characters out. That's the ticket for episode 4. Yeah. Looking forward to talking about episode 4 of Lovecraft Country, season 1 on HBO with y'all. Next week, we will continue with episode 4. Excuse me. We're skipping straight to season 4. The year is 2032. All right, let's move on. Yellowstone season 1. We watched episodes 4 and 5 this week of season 1 of Yellowstone. For those of you who are huge Yellowstone fans and have been waiting forever for us to cover this show, we are doing it.
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone. And let's just start with saying that John Dutton has colon cancer.
Oh, yeah, he does.
John, the big bomb dropped at the beginning of episode 4 that Dutton has colon cancer and had a big-ass bunch of it pulled out of him by the doctor a doctor who was a son of one of these old badass ranchers on his ranch, and they're talking, watching horses be run around, and he's like, I heard John Dutton got a foot of cancer pulled out of his ass, and you're like, God damn, what? And they're talking about how, like, man, I don't know how he does it, how he rides them horses at his age. Hell, if I rode a horse like that, my prostate would explode. And he's out there dominating after having just had this incredibly, obviously intense and serious surgery. He's getting bucked around
by a horse, man.
Later, we see the scar from the surgery, and I mean, it's no joke.
No
joke at all.
No, absolutely not.
So Dutton has cancer. He believes it's all been removed. Obviously, this is going to be a storyline moving forward. John Dutton and his colon cancer battle.
It could be, yeah.
It would be shocking to me if they were like, that was literally it. We just wanted to get a little bit of cancer talk in there, but they pulled it out of him, and he's good now. John also almost accidentally lets Casey's son drown in a river. Casey's life, for lack of a better term, sucks. Every episode is just horrible shit happening. He's either having to kill people, which, by the way, I think this was... Did any bodies drop in episode 4 and 5? I don't think we saw a kill.
Yeah, no, we did. We did.
Oh, we did?
We did.
Whom?
Well, our man's...
he gets...
Our man's takes the night train, the dark train to nowhere.
And we'll get to him in episode 5. But Casey's life...
That was episode 4.
Was it episode 4?
Yeah. And I mean, I got some questions is what I have, Russ. Yeah.
Ask them.
Well, so...
Oh, it's Fred. Poor Fred. You're right.
Don't you ever dare touch a branded man again, Fred.
Hey, how bad did this episode make you want to get one of those brands? I'm a criminal.
I mean, really it was more when Ryan Bingham says that what the fuck else is he going to do? That I was like, that's tight. That's tight.
When you say Ryan Bingham, and you referenced Ryan Bingham earlier in today's show.
That's because
you're, of course, saying that because he's become a character on the show. He enters into this episode.
Correct.
Now,
and there was also...
being a fool...
There was also... There has been some Ryan Bingham music previously already.
Okay.
And maybe it might have even been episode 4. I can't remember. But there was a song that I either looked up or that I Shazammed. I think I Shazammed a song, actually. I did.
You used the app Shazam.
A song opens episode 4, and it's kind of like this. It almost kind of sounds kind of rocky. It's kind of slow. It's when the Cowboys are all getting up in the morning.
Okay, yeah.
That song is a Ryan Bingham song.
Fair enough. Well, I'm a moron, and earlier when you made that Ryan Bingham joke, I sat here and went, just pretend you know why, smile and laugh, which happens sometimes on this show.
Well,
Y'all never know.
Then he's our con.
I didn't know he was this dude, though. That's Ryan Bingham.
That we pick up in episode 5.
I love Ryan Bingham. Crazy Heart's one of my favorite movies ever. He did all the music for that. The Weary Kind was literally my fucking ringtone for years, like 3 years. It's one of my all-time favorite songs ever. Not just like, I really like this song. Like, that's one of my favorite songs. So for me to not have recognized that he was the dude we bring in episode 5 makes me just a jackass, Barrett. So I'm happy to have you here, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my question. We got Casey. He offs a couple of nobodies.
Sure.
Right?
Meth dealers.
Out in the middle of nowhere in the desert on the outskirts of the res.
Indeed.
They bury the bodies deep, 6 feet deep. Because you got to bury a body 6 feet deep out there in that Montana desert.
Hell, they'll get found.
Because otherwise, they're bound to get found.
They're bound to.
They burn the bodies. They bury them deep, middle of nowhere.
Sure.
And then, like 6 minutes later, developers come across the bodies. Okay, so
which are completely decomposed.
That's the first thing. But then the Yellowstone guys, we can just murk a dude on the side of the cliff and then throw his bag and saddle off of a cliff and then throw his hat and nobody's gonna find this dude?
Look, man, nobody finds the people who ride the train. Dude, I was a little confused by that.
They don't bury him. They don't Breaking Bad acid barrel his body. They just like kill him off the side of a cliff But
here's what I'm guessing.
Meanwhile, Casey is out there doing due diligence to hide the bodies, which get found instantly. We're not going to. This has clearly been done before. Nobody finds these dead cowboys.
The difference, and here's what I call that character, the guy who takes him on the train. That's the old timer.
He's
the branded old timer.
He's the branded old timer
to me. And the branded old timer, I'm guessing, has himself enough expertise and enough experience doing the night train that he's probably got an untraceable weapon and it doesn't fucking matter. That's the only explanation, because he literally takes him to a cliffside. By the way, Fred, not the brightest crayon in the box.
No.
He's like, wait a minute.
Wait, what are you doing?
There ain't no train around here. And he's like, well, that's because you're not riding no normal train. You're riding the train to Death Town. And Fred's like, I don't understand all these crazy analogies. I'm just going to stand here right next to this cliff and give you a clean shot. Like, Fred, what were you fucking thinking, you fat oaf?
Yeah, no, when you pull over to just a little cliffside embankment and
you were supposed to run.
And you're supposed to go to the bus or the train station, and it's the middle of the night and there's no lights, there's nothing anywhere. Yeah, that's because you're getting whacked.
This was like when they kill Adriana in The Sopranos, except Adriana has the wherewithal to get out of the car and haul ass. This dude just stood there. Fred was just like, well, guess we'll see if the train shows. Fucking idiot. Anyway, Fred needed to go.
Yeah, what do you think that was, platform 9 3/4?
God, he was a dumbass. So the whole reason for that, by the way, is that Jimmy, our branded new guy who's a little bit of a, he's a little bit of the runt of the litter, you could say, Jimmy. Not quite hard enough yet. He gets his ass beat by Fred. Fred beats this dude.
It's like I always say, Ross, becoming a man is tough business.
Hell, it is. Dude, that was a great quote that I wrote down, by the way.
The one about becoming a man?
Becoming a man.
It's the shame that
He
hurts
said, here
the
it is,
most.
here it is. Rough business becoming a man,
Rough
ain't
business.
it? Beats the alternative, though. And then I put dash branded old timer.
Branded old timer.
Because that's my dude with his quote from episode 5. But in episode 4, Jimmy gets his ass beat by Fred. Rip Wheeler comes in and defends him. And we find out that branded men on the ranch are protected, okay? Fred is not branded. So Fred gets his ass fired, and then Rip is going to drop him at the bus station and then says, he's talking to John. He's talking to John Dutton.
Yeah, and he's for real going to drop him at the bus station. But then Rip is like, this guy,
I think he needs to go to the train.
He knows too much.
He's seen a lot.
He's seen a lot. He knows too much. I think we might need to take this guy to the Montana train station, if you know what I mean.
And John's like, just do whatever the fuck you think, bro. Rip's got some pull. Rip is like one of the most powerful characters on the show. Like, John listens to him. There's no arguing there. He just does what he knows he needs to do. He's
still
clearly
very pointed that Rip is like he is John Dutton's, right? Like, it's all yes sir, and there's
that's his man, yeah.
That right, like Rip is owned by John Dutton, essentially.
Yes, as are all the branded men.
As are all the branded men.
Which we find out there are very few of them. Speaking of which, John wants to replace Fred, the oaf, with a branded man from the prison who ends up being Ryan Bingham. So Fred goes bye-bye. Old man takes him to the train station, gives him a ride on the long black train with a bullet to the forehead. Bye-bye, Fred. He should not have handed Jimmy that ass-kicking. In the same episode, episode 4, Beth goes out to continue to pursue Dan, the developer who is an enemy of the Dutton family, and hits his hotel up, offers him a little bone action, continues to just be she couldn't be playing this dude harder, and he's just biting at every turn. Takes Dan to a local bar. And essentially, the entire point of the trip was to show him that he is a pussy, not a cowboy, not a tough guy. He gets the shit kicked out of him just over and over. I mean, that was a fucking hilarious scene.
Yeah.
And Beth is just a raging alcoholic, Barrett. I just figured she was a raging alcoholic. I mean, she really is a raging alcoholic, though. Rip ends up meeting with Beth at that bar later. Now, they are very clearly, like, in a relationship.
Yeah. So they are connected
Yeah, and they both
even if
kind
it's
of
not a traditional boyfriend-girlfriend sitch.
they both get what they both let each other handle the business they need to handle, sort of.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you don't have Rip asking a bunch of questions about what she's doing, and you don't have her asking a bunch of questions about Rip's doing.
Yeah, and I did want to just comment on this this scene as well, because one of my favorite things is just when you just randomly choose to go out to a honky tonk bar on a
sure.
Wednesday night, and
Sure.
and it's very easy to get in, and Whiskey Myers is playing.
Hell yeah.
Because Montana, as I always say, we're all about that outlaw country
Indeed.
here in Montana.
Absolutely, we are.
And so it's just very
And that Big Sky, Barry.
It's very normal to be in the Big Sky state and just happen upon a bar on a Tuesday evening, and Whiskey Myers or Ryan Bingham is playing.
Hey, hell, why wouldn't they be?
Well,
It's Montana.
It's the highest concentration of billionaires. It's not New York. It's not L.A.
No, but they
I
got
can throw
money.
a whiskey glass across a room and hit 5 of them.
She can indeed. What's she trying to get money for?
They're killing businesses
Oh,
for
yeah.
sport.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she just wants to take fuckers out. That's it, man. Beth is insane. Maybe my favorite character now, replacing Casey after this 4th and 5th episode, dude. She's just totally derailing.
Yeah. So at least with episode 4, at the very back of episode 4, what we were making fun of last week is how Casey is just on like this murdering spree,
And just,
4 bodies in 3 episodes, and that you can't do that, Casey. It's gonna come back to bite you, right?
even if they
And
are random meth guys
meth
on the
guys
side
who
of the road.
deserved it.
This
Right,
isn't
well,
Nam. There are rules.
At the end of 4, we finally get like the, where that was all going. He
Yes.
does get bit by it. He does
gets
get pulled
arrested.
over and arrested by the res police.
He's like considering running again, or like tells his wife, like, grab the pistol out of the glove box. And she's like, honey, enough. We don't have anywhere to run. Just a tough episode for Casey. Almost loses his son, and finally gets arrested for bodying like 4 people through the first few episodes. And that's what happens when you keep catching bodies, Casey.
Mm-hmm.
You learn your lesson.
Catching bodies, you're gonna catch a case.
You are indeed. So let's jump into episode 5, where that case is handled very abruptly, I might add. Episode 5, with John taking a look at some horses. Wants
Yeah.
to buy him a horse, Barrett.
So this is really this stuff is still my favorite part of this series so far, because this really is, we use this term on when we watch Succession, right? Like the wealth porn piece of it, where you're just watching these people do things that like you will never do in 8 lifetimes,
and talk
like,
about amounts of money that to you are like unfathomable for a fucking horse.
So watching these horses trot around, and each of them come up and do the quick stop thing, and then just like, oh, well, he'll earn you money back in 3 years, and then he's
Paying for himself.
Then he's a money tree. He's only $5 million.
Hell, he studs for $2,000 a pop. But yeah,
I just love that shit,
dude.
Like,
The first horse.
It's ranch succession in that case specifically, and it's fun to watch.
The first horse is. He tells them it's 5, and they're like 500,000. Man,
Seems like a lot for a horse.
He's like
yeah.
$5 million. $5 million horse. Then they bring down the next level down. They bring out the next level down, who has a slightly less impressive stop thing.
Right. Yeah.
He's $2 million. And then the $1 million horse. I just like horses are very expensive. It turns out
They are. Yeah.
very, very expensive. Jamie Dutton, who is the Dutton family lawyer, right? One of John Dutton's sons is the one from American Horror Story. Another great actor. He comes in and saves Casey's ass with the res police by pointing out that the barrels have been switched on their guns. Remember the old switcheroo they did last week we discussed? Well, that came back to bite the res cops in the ass because he switched his barrel out with the cops, so the ballistics report is very problematic for the police. And Ben, the cop named Ben who did the old switcheroo, is just like, well, shit. And Jamie talks them into trading the barrels back, immediately gets his brother Casey off the hook, but it remains to be seen what Thomas Rainwater is going to attempt to do with that situation henceforth.
Right, and at the end right there, they talk about how maybe they were worried about the wrong Dutton.
And
so
now they're worried about Jamie the lawyer.
Now they're worried about Jamie the lawyer.
And as they keep saying, nobody knows how to break the law worse.
Implying
really good lawyer.
that they were worried about Casey. I just kind of thought they were going after Casey as like a chip,
to get at John.
To get at John.
And I think that was the case, but they're realizing like this Casey cat has like no power. comparatively.
No power and a lot of protection from a guy like Jamie.
Yeah, they need to go for a bigger fish, higher up the ladder,
yes.
try and find him in some hot water. Then they're really
There you
jacking
go.
with the Duttons, whereas with Casey, I mean, he's half in, half out. We don't even know if he's staying. Is he going? Is he going to stop killing people? Is he going to get caught for one of the kills? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
His life's a mess. Jamie, on the other hand, seemingly a very powerful and imperative piece of the Dutton crime family, the ranch mafia, if you will. Rip Wheeler hits the prison, picks up the new dude named Walker, who, again, played by Ryan Bingham, which is a thing I know, and immediately recognized as I was watching the show. Beth works in an Adderall joke to explain why she can drink so much without seeming the least bit tipsy, which I found to be both hilarious and extremely problematic. He meets up with Dan again, and this time Dan's with his wife. So, of course, Beth befriends Dan's wife just to make Dan's life even more of a living hell.
Yes.
And if there's anyone who's currently suffering more than Casey, it's Dan, who just can't stop trying to chase Beth and getting his ass kicked at every turn.
Yeah, yeah. Wife's a real firecracker, though.
She cracked me up. She was fucking hilarious. Yeah, her her back at her house, like stripping down to her lingerie, and then him being like, go to bed. And she's like, fine, I'll do it myself. I was like, good for you. Fuck this loser. And that guy inevitably, he feels like he's going to be a longer term issue.
So, yeah, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about through 5 episodes. This is a 9-episode first season, so we're already over halfway through. And yet I still feel like he's kind of our seasonal bad guy. Now, maybe his role expands into season 2. Maybe this development is something that continues. But I keep kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop with this because I feel like, look, the res, that's not going anywhere. At least not to my mind.
You wouldn't think so, right?
I sure wouldn't think so. That feels like the battle between somebody like Thomas Rainwater and John Dutton is kind of a recurring theme.
Forever, probably. I mean,
that's kind of how I would write it out. Whereas the development, this Dan Jenkins guy kind of seems like I keep kind of waiting for him to be like the main bad guy in a way.
See, that's why I'm having trouble thinking he's our dude that will be gone by the end of the season.
And maybe he won't be.
Here's the thing that I considered. Thomas Rainwater, head of the reservation, not going anywhere the reservation, but Thomas Rainwater could go somewhere and be replaced with someone else who then becomes the problem at the reservation.
True.
Whereas Dan, who, again, Dan has not succeeded in almost any way yet.
But at the end of the episode, Dan is also calling in the big guns.
Which is some female that he is, I think, maybe trying to have Beth killed?
I don't know.
That seemed like a hit call to me.
He's calling in some type of fixer.
He said he needed the disaster package or some shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That made me feel the Armageddon package is what he called it. After he gets he refuses sex from his wife, which seemed foolish to me.
It did.
Just
don't you know?
What are you doing?
Married man, you got to take it when it's on the table.
Come on, man. The black lingerie and everything. Dan, what's your deal? Just don't get it. But yeah, I see 2 ways they can go here, obviously. It also might be that both of those dudes are longer picture problems and neither of them get solved in season 1. It's that's the thing I like about this show right now. The pace is not quick. It's not very quick. It's a nice, slow pace, but you never really feel that. I'm talking about big picture storyline, plot lines. But you get enough every episode and all these little interesting pieces and tidbits from all these different angles. And that's where I get the Game of Thrones feeling. Because in Game of Thrones, we were always dealing with so many characters and all of them had their own sort of set of circumstances. That's the way this show is sort of set up a little bit. And not that much has to happen for it to be a very exciting and interesting episode. Which I kind of felt was the case with the 5th one. A little bit.
Yeah.
What else? So, Jimmy is on the struggle bus after the ass beating from Fred, who took the train ride. His entire body hurts. He's pretty much having a mental breakdown here. He can't ride. He's on the horse. He just starts crying, and the branded old-timer explains to him that it's the shame, Barrett.
That hurts
It's the shame that hurts the most, and shame is in the mind, and you can turn that faucet off whenever you want to.
That's what I always say.
The old timer is my favorite fucking character. And again, that's where he says, rough business becoming a man, ain't it? Beats the alternative, though.
That was such a good line.
God, it's so good. John is trying to get Casey to work for him again. Casey won't do it. John talks with Casey's wife about, like, where's your long-term play here? Then John tries to circumvent Casey by getting Casey's wife a job working at a school, but she doesn't want to abandon the reservation students. Nothing's going well with John trying to get Casey back in the fold.
Right.
It's all resistance and blockades so far.
Yeah.
But you have to think inevitably in season 1, we do end up with Casey back in the fold, I would think.
I mean, you would think so, and it looks like they're pushing now the one thing that they might have, the one kind of thing that they're getting is that the parents are questioning, or at least Monica is, whether or not they should be giving their son this type of life with this type of opportunity and privilege and comfort and stability, essentially.
Right.
And it's a fair question to ask. And, you know, Casey is certainly the resistant one at this point. And that all is certainly tying into another thread that's kind of looming and coming together in this season 1, which is what exactly is this branded fraternity of men?
Yeah.
And how did Casey become a part of it?
If he's John's son.
And what's the story there?
Why is he in the branded fraternity of criminals? And it's only criminals. That's made very clear when Rip explains to Ryan Bingham. He's like, all these guys branded? And he's like, nope, just the criminals. And it's like, oh.
Oh, I actually think I missed that.
Yeah, so it's only criminals branded. Okay. And it makes me wonder what Casey did at some point to earn his brand.
And this was, I'm going to guess that this was not a willing decision
by Casey. We're going to find out at some point. Here's what's interesting. What they do at the end of episode 5 when they show Rip Wheeler take Ryan Bingham, also known as, what's his name? Walker. Old Walker, Texas Ranger. They take Walker's ass out to the woods and they say, there's the fire. It's not like with Jimmy. Walker's just like, all right.
Yeah.
Fucking basically asks a couple questions, gets it explained to him, after he plays some guitar for the boys.
It's a heavy price to pay for $400 a week.
It is, but you become part of a family.
It's not about the money, Walker. It's about the family.
It's about family. Also, I love that they got some Ryan Bingham guitar play in there, and I still was stupid enough not to recognize exactly who I was looking at, which would be the equivalent of me watching the episode of Game of Thrones with that ginger fuck and not noticing him. That's the equivalent. Maybe not quite as bad, but it's almost there. Like, I've literally listened to this dude's album 1,000 times and couldn't place him out of a lineup, which is pathetic.
You just mentioned Ed Sheeran, and so this is actually the perfect moment for a small segue and aside, because our friend Klein, yes, Klein, he just texted me like 10 minutes ago, and with breaking news that Ed Sheeran has confirmed that his wife Cherry has given birth to their first child. It's a daughter, and her name is. Are you ready for this?
Are you?
Lyra.
No way. Man, I wonder if it was a boy, were they going to go with Billy Costa?
Billy Costa.
Somebody texted us and said
Billy Costa.
I think Billy Costa is not in the second season.
That's because Billy Costa is dead.
Well, be hard as hell for him to make the second season. Then wouldn't
sure
it, Barrett?
would. Billy Costa got sent on that long train.
He's on that night train.
He's on the night train. But Klein follows up here saying that he's dreading how many times you and I are going to say Lyra and Billy Costa on OCC this week. So I had to squeeze this in so that we could talk about Ed Sheeran's new daughter named Lyra! Billy Costa!
Everyone's favorite part of the show, especially those who weren't here for our very brief coverage of, what was it even called?
His Dark Materials.
His Dark Materials on HBO, which was a show that maybe would have had a fighting chance had
Sans
Lin-Manuel Miranda not been the worst,
or Lin-Manuel Marrera, as
I call him,
it.
the worst Texas aeronaut in the history of Texas aeronauts in film and television.
He's just a rootin' tootin' swinging old good timing aeronaut from Texas.
Fucking hate that guy. I fucking hate him. I love his shit.
Boy, he sure would not make it very long in that big sky country.
Oh, hell, Barrett. He just don't have the stones. He don't have the sand that you need.
I don't think he could be a branded man. And the thing about this podcast here is that it's for branded men only.
This is family.
This is family.
You better be branded if you're going to walk into this studio. We find out Beth is 34 years old. I just wanted an age check on Beth, and I was glad I got one after Jamie picks her up and she's shit-faced and she can't drive, which results in probably the most tense episode of the entire tense scene in the entire episode when she puts a gun to her own chin and tells Jamie that he's never lost anyone in his life because you have to watch them die to actually lose them, of course, referring to their mother. While she has the gun to her chin, Jamie's like, do it. Please,
that was intense.
Do the world a fucking favor. And then we get an outside view of the car, and we hear a shot, and for a split second, I was like, oh, my God.
Beth's gone.
Beth is gone.
Or she killed
Jamie.
Just for
shits and gigs, which would have been fucking insane as well. Man, her mother's passing did quite a number on her.
Yeah, I appreciated this scene, one, because it was very intense, and two, because... they are obviously painting Beth as this very tortured,
very broken,
very, just like she is intense and
fiery,
sexual. And, just all of these things. She's an extremely strong personality that I think we can pretty easily assume is haunted by this. And this scene kind of like acknowledges and affirms, that train of thought that like, the reason that she is so
evil, as John puts it,
yes,
evil,
that her own dad puts it, is because of this experience with her mom, who literally showed her no love whatsoever for her entire life and essentially died with hate in her eyes towards her own daughter.
Here's the quote. You got to watch your mother look you in the eye with no love in her heart, not even a little. Then you get to carry that. That's losing, Jamie. And then literally John basically explaining why they need Beth around and why he needs her operating is that he calls her evil.
Yeah.
That she has the ability to do the evil that is required for them to continue to press forward. Oh, what else? I believe that's pretty much it. Other than we do see Ryan Bingham obviously get branded. Walter, otherwise known as Ryan Bingham, willingly gets it done. But the important part of that scene, other than that we get to see how that sort of fraternity... Because when Jimmy got branded, it was more chaotic. They had to hold him down and shit. It's fucking crazy. This was more of an explanation, more of an invitation, more straightforward. And Casey's wife, who is Casey's obviously branded, sees this entire ceremony take place. I couldn't tell if she could hear the conversations taking place, but she certainly watched and seems horrified by it all. And the old-timer brands Ryan Bingham and tells him, "Welcome to the Yellowstone." And then that's pretty much it for episode 5.
And did you take away from that this little group, the fraternity, is called the Yellowstone?
I don't really know.
Or did you think it was like...
I thought it was like, welcome to the Yellowstone Ranch.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did think it was really interesting how there's this very clear distinction. And we started to pick up on this in episode 2 or whatever, because the old-timer defends Jimmy once or twice in episode 2 or 3, I can't recall. And there's a very clear distinction between branded and non-branded, and now we know exactly what that means. Branded guys are the criminals that they bring into their ranch mafia to do dirt. And there's not very many of them, like 4 or 5. One of them's the old-timer, one of them's Rip Wheeler, one of them's Casey, one of them's Ryan Bingham now, one of them's Jimmy, and there's like one other fucking guy we haven't met yet who I'm assuming is going to die.
One other... Wait, who?
I thought there was like one other dude around that fire who like we didn't recognize maybe.
No.
Okay, so it was just
old-timer, Jimmy, Rip, and Walker.
Okay, so we know them all.
We know them all.
And it's a small circle of killers.
It's a very small circle of killers. One thing that I was going to suggest here is I know that Jimmy is undergoing the rough process of becoming a man.
Jimmy!
Billy Costa! But Lyra. But I do think it's important when Jimmy becomes a man. I hope
sure,
for his sake that they give him a real cowboy hat instead of that
floppy
white girl Galveston beach like souvenir shop
spring break hat,
spring break cowboy hat, because that thing is god awful. And I think that that's a part of it, that he's like new to the ranch. He's never been a cowboy before. He has no idea what he's doing.
He's got a shitty hat.
He's got this shitty hat.
At some point,
because nobody else has one. So I don't think that they gave him that hat being like, wardrobe, Jimmy needs a hat. And they're like, this is the only one we have left.
This is all we got. And Jimmy's like, this makes me look like a fucking idiot. Yeah, I bet he earns a hat at some point. Can't you just see John Dutton or Rip just like putting a fucking sick brand new Stetson black hat on that guy?
Ross, I swear to God, nothing would make me happier except for sitting up, laying on a grassy knoll, looking up at that big sky, Montana stars.
Oh shit, son. That big sky in Montana.
And just thinking about how I rode a horse.
I like to sit out there under that big Montana sun
and saved a calf
and think about $5 million horses.
But boy, I sure would love to see Jimmy get that hat that I know he deserves.
Wouldn't that be something?
Sure would.
If Jimmy could earn his hat. My God, it'd be a sight to see. Anyway, that's it for episode 5. That's all I got. That's all I got. Shit has picked up. Look, through 5, I couldn't be more all in on this show. Like, it's fucking awesome. It's pretty much everything it was made out to be. And this set of episodes 4 and 5 really got the engine revving in terms of like what we're looking at, big picture, longer term here. How they're going to develop out these characters, how they're going to continue to add new characters. We've seen some devices for that already. Walker obviously coming. By the way, Walker allegedly did, Ryan Bingham, allegedly did prison time for manslaughter for punching a man in the face in the bar who died.
Yeah.
As a result
probably
of the
the one that Whiskey Myers was playing at.
Probably.
If I had to take a guess.
Can't be that many bars around town. And that is the bar where people just go up to each other and punch each other in the face.
Big Roadhouse vibes in that bar.
That
just
was
nonstop fights.
That was straight Roadhouse. I love the one guy who punches him in the face and then goes, "Y'all are trying to get me arrested," and just like walks off. There's no there has to be something ensue after a punch. You don't just punch someone in the face and then everyone's like, "All right, well, he deserved it," and then everybody goes back to their business.
Yeah, the show is a lot of fun. I'm holding out on giving like the plot 10 out of 10 as of yet.
Well, like you said, we don't know where we're
because that. Over halfway through, and there's still, I just feel like all of the rivers are still diverging post-explosion. So we'll see. I'm certainly interested to see how they all come back in. Now, the show certainly has its claws in me. Got to know more about what Rainwater and the members of the Res are going to do, and what this Dan Jenkins, who is this fixer that he's calling in? What is the Yellowstone Club? So there's lots of big questions that we still have yet to be answered that I'm very interested in finding out more. The show is clearly very ripe for content and for discussion, which is the number one thing. Like, that's huge.
Very huge.
And I mean...
It's a ton of fun to talk about.
It's a ton of fun to talk about, and really the only thing that I like more than talking...
Don't do it! There's got to be a limit. Really, the only thing I like more than talking about Yellowstone is sitting under that big blue Montana sky, reminiscing on $5 million horses.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun, and it's been fun to talk about too. So yeah, man, we should be through 7 next week, right?
And then we'll only have one more.
2 more. I think there's 9 episodes.
Oh, 9. Season. You're right. 9. Weird off number there. Makes me a little uncomfortable that they did that, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll make do. We'll do 2 more this week and 2 more next week, and we'll be out. Or 2 more next week and 2 more the week after that, rather. It don't matter. Just make sure you don't end up taking a ride on the night train.
Don't take a ride on the night train.
Between now and then.
And we're taking it slow, and I just recommend getting in your Ram truck.
Dodge Ram.
Your Dodge Ram.
Built Ford tough.
Hemi, hopefully. Hope it's a Hemi.
Hell.
Better be a Hemi.
Better be a Hemi. I can tell you suck a lot of dick from this truck right here that you got.
And turn on your favorite outlaw country, whether it's Ryan Bingham or Whiskey Myers, and just, look out the window at that big sky. I
wonder if Jimmy got his white girl spring break hat from sucking dick. That was the best conversation. Dude, the show is so well written because that was two dudes who are bad dudes. He's testing Ryan Bingham to see if he's got what it takes to make it, right? So he's asking him questions like that would make you want to fight a person.
Right.
And then he has the retorts to show, hey, I'm just like you. I'm also a badass. Get me branded. I want to be a part of the Yellowstone and look up at that big Montana sky every night.
We got to get out of here.
All right, we're done. Thank you so much for listening.
I'm spent.
Again, thank you to everybody who suggested we watch Yellowstone because it has been thoroughly enjoyable so far. Thanks for screaming at us over the past couple years to get us in on this show. Loving it so far and hope that you're enjoying it, whether you're new and watching it with us for the first time or you're somebody who's re-listening to coverage of it that's already seen Season 1 and is up through Season 3. Either way, thank you for being here. And that will do it for today's episode of OCC. Huge thanks to everybody supporting the show on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles in exchange for additional ad-free premium episodes of OCC each and every month. You can support us directly right there on Patreon by signing up for one of the tiers. We got several tiers to be selected now, whether it's the Mollusk Militia or $10 minimum pledge tier to get 4 additional episodes of OCC each month, including a Mollusk Militia exclusive hotline call extravaganza at the end of the month, or a Wiretappers tier that allows you access to that hotline call extravaganza but not participation in the hotline itself, or the Crustacean Nation where you get 3 additional ad-free episodes, or any of the other options we've now created on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles for all the members of the Clam fam to get in there, support Barrett and I and all of OCC and keep us doing big things. We appreciate y'all. Much more to come in September, this new month of September. Throughout August, if you were curious what we did, August we did our top 5 movies of all time as a podcast on Patreon, ad-free. We did a sort of mixed bag episode that was titled Jason Derulo Wasn't Wrong, where we talked about all manner of different shit. We talked trending entertainment news before taking calls from both the Clam Fam and Mollusk Militia, leading to all manner of discussion as well. And we did our movie club on Defy Blood, Spike Lee's movie featuring the late Chadwick Boseman, and we had a blast. So more to come in September. If you've never strapped in on Patreon and you think you want some more OCC this month, hell, the only thing I like more than some... I'm just kidding. Follow us on Instagram at Oysters, Clams, Cockles, on Twitter at Clams and Cockles. We are on Facebook.com/Oysters, Clams, Cockles for all the best in TV and movies. And you can follow me, Ross Bolin, at WR Bolin on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat at WRBOLEN on those 3 platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. If you're a Twitch person, I'm on twitch.tv/BossRollin. It's Ross Bolin with the B and the R reversed. And listen to the Ross Bolin podcast wherever you listen to Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. Mr. Dudley, where can we follow you and hear more of your beautiful voice?
Follow me, Twitter, Instagram, at Barrett Dudley, and you can check out the Club Cool podcast wherever you're listening to OCC. This week it's Plant Week on Club Cool, so if you have an interest, of fledgling or otherwise, or if you're a full-blown hobbyist,
flora and fauna,
and you like plants, indoor, outdoor, cactus, snake plants, pothos.
Is it the flora or the fauna that's the plants? It's
Monstera.
The flora. It's the flora.
All of the above. We had a whole half of a podcast that just came out yesterday. That's all about living that plant life. And as people are saying out there, plants are the new pets. So give that a listen.
Many people are saying it.
Club Cool podcast wherever you listen to OCC.
All right, y'all enjoy the rest of your week under that big sky. Barrett and I are gonna go get branded and
get a new cowboy hat.
Maybe
I gotta get rid of this spring breaker hat that I have.
Maybe hit a local honky tonk and see how many times we can get punched in the face. Until our next helping. Goodbye, friends.